Well, I will say that there's a couple. I hate snakes, and I hate
Okay.
snakes, and I hate raccoons. And some of the places we have to go, obviously, we go on attics and we go in crawl spaces.
Hmm.
And attics are cool. I'm totally fine with attics, but crawl spaces are a precarious place where creatures can hang out.
My name is Jessie McLellan, and I'm a realtor here in Oshawa, Ontario, with the Lisa Abbott team. In this week's video, I spoke with Brad from Twin Peaks Property Inspections about his experiences as a home inspector and covering a variety of topics. If you'd like to stay up to date on everything happening in our real estate market, especially here in Durham Region, then please subscribe to the channel and enjoy the video. So, let's kind of go into now. You had mentioned some of the older homes on Athol, so let's talk about older homes. Here in Oshawa, we have a lot of century homes and even more in that kind of 50 to 99-year-old range. And older homes can be full of charm and character, and some are gorgeously renovated and have been really well maintained over the years. And some of them have been not as well kept over the years. So, is there anything that you consistently see in older homes that can be considered negatives or costly to remedy or repair, or even like dangerous to live with?
Yeah, it's such an awesome question. I mean, Oshawa has got such a wide variety of old homes. And
Yeah.
my first house was a 50s bungalows just in the South Glens. And that house taught me a lot about, how to do some renovations and not do what the previous owner did.
Yep, that's fair.
But in all seriousness, with those older homes, there's some key things that your insurance provider is going to want to know. They're going to probably ask you, does what type of wiring does the home have?
Hmm.
So we want to make sure that if there is aluminum wiring, that it's documented, and
Hmm.
you're going to need to get an electrician to come have a look at that aluminum.
Hmm.
It's not all big and scary, but it does need to be repaired properly with
Hmm.
pigtailing. Other things your insurance provider is probably going to ask is what type of plumbing pipes are in the house.
Hmm.
So we know copper was used a lot in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Nowadays we use a lot of PEX like plastic, but
Yep.
the one we're on the lookout for is steel galvanized water lines.
Right.
Steel galvanized was used in the early 1900s, and because it's steel, it rusts and it leaks.
Hmm.
And so sometimes it'll either be like very very obvious, or sometimes we'll have to really look underneath sinks and get almost with our detective eyes to look behind the plaster and drywall to find it.
Yeah.
There are some other recalled things that we're always on the lookout for, like electrical panels.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
we're on the lookout for like Federal Pacific electrical panels, Zinsco, Bulldog, Pushmatic. There's a few a handful of electrical panels that we know are dangerous, and we'll make sure we're on the lookout for those. Um, and then other things like we've built a lot of good homes, and we've learned from our mistakes over the years. So we used to put asbestos in everything.
Yeah.
And so you might like my first house had vermiculite in the attic,
Right.
and so I knew that I was going to be selling one day. So I sent a sample to the laboratory, and I got it tested, and they sent me back and they said it did not contain asbestos. But we know that vermiculite in about 50% of cases could have asbestos in it.
Well, and that's the worst thing with asbestos products is like a lot of the products that are that contain it look identical to the ones that don't contain it because they were manufactured at the same time. And so the only way to really know for sure is to send them out and get them tested.
Totally,
And at
totally.
that point, honestly, the cost that they charge you to get it tested, you honestly might as well just remove it and use that money to put towards the removal of it if you're probably going to do it anyway. Yeah, at least that's been kind of what we found.
Yeah, I totally agree. We actually started to do mold and asbestos testing last year because we did find that some of the providers were charging a lot. So that's something
Okay.
we brought in house.
Nice.
But and lead, we put lead in a lot of things, lead paint. These are things that people are concerned about. If
Mhm.
they're going to be taking down walls or they're doing any types of renovations, they want to make sure that they know what kind of home they're buying, what the condition is.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I'll say is with these older homes, and I think to Athol because I know that all those homes they have some basements that they might have some moisture down there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just the way that those homes were constructed. They've got a brick foundation, and it's our job as inspectors, obviously, to tell people that the basement's wet. Um, and we also want to let people know that that some homes when they were built, like I'll use an old home with stone foundation. Those homes, like country homes, were not intended to ever be lived in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so nowadays people want to live in the basement. They want to have their rec room, TV room. But when these older homes were built, they weren't intended to have a couch down there. And so that's part of our jobs to educate people on the house, what to expect on these older homes.
Yeah, totally. So, just because I'm curious and I feel like, well, I have you here, what is kind of the worst thing that you've ever seen? Because I'm sure you've been through quite a few that have sort of knocked your socks off, but anything that's really kind of stood out to you?
Um, well, I will say that there's a couple. I hate snakes, and I hate
Okay.
snakes, and I hate raccoons. And some of the places we have to go, obviously, we go in attics and we go in crawl spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And attics are cool. I'm totally fine with attics, but crawl spaces are a precarious place where creatures can hang out.
Yes. Yep.
And I've been chased out of a fair number of crawl spaces by a raccoon and by a couple snakes. And you never seen a 40-year-old man run so fast.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, crawl spaces kind of creep me out too, but that's why I let you go in them.
That's our job.
Yep.
And the other one too is when homes are renovated, like for example, when homes are being flipped for a quick sale.
Mm-hmm.
Those will be situations where we know that there's a budget, probably budget constraints, or they're budget conscious, and we'll be on the lookout for like repairs that weren't done so well.
Yeah. I mean, and that's really tough too, because I mean, talking about wiring even earlier, and you had mentioned like pony panels and stuff like that. We had one that was knob and tube, and then it ran to like a pony panel, and then came out like copper on the panel. And it was some wild wiring, and yeah, I was just like, how did that even work its way out? And it felt really like the people that were the previous owners, like it felt almost really dishonest because it
Yeah.
was knob and tube for like 70% of it, and then just this like copper panel at the end of it. It was wild.
And that's what they'll do is they'll put new cover plates. They'll make it look totally updated from living space, but
Yeah.
behind the walls in the attic will be all that old ungrounded wire.
Yeah.
And we're putting families in these homes, right? Like this
Yeah.
is this is important life safety stuff.
Hmm.
So
And there's
it's
a reason why insurance charges more for it. And well, honestly, I don't even think that insurance companies will really insure knob and tube anymore. I think for the most part, it's they'll insure you while you replace it, you rip it out and replace it. But yeah, fire hazards, right?
yeah, and it's people's lives, right? So it's important.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe even learned something. Be sure to check out the other videos with Brad and give him a follow on Instagram at Twin Peaks Inspections. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on our local real estate market, and I'll see you next week. Bye.